Hi and welcome to my second video. As we talked in previous lesson about PHP basics, we talked about variables and about their values and some of the basic syntaxes of PHP. So now let's understand about the values. Which type of values we can keep inside those containers. Let's remember this image that we have a box which is our variable, and we can put there different types of data. So we have different types of fruits like banana, apple, oranges. In the same way, we have 8 data types in PHP. So let's study them one by one. First is string. String is any text. To store text inside variable, as told on the right side, after equation mark, we put the text inside double or single quotes without any difference which one you choose to use. So here's our first one. Our second one is the integer. So integer basically means rounded number. So for example, I will name our y variable 15. So it holds the number, the value of number 15. But please make a note that numbers are not being inside single or double quotes as in a string. If we try to save them inside single or double quotes, it will be interpreted by PHP as a string. So we need to avoid single or double quotes when using integer. Our third data type are floating numbers. Floating numbers are numbers which are not rounded. So let's create another z variable, and it's gonna hold value 5.6. So any number that has sub numbers after the point are called floating numbers. Our fourth value are booleans. So guys, if you don't understand everything, just follow me. We are going to use all of them in this lesson. So our fourth one are booleans. So there was a famous scientist, after his name, these values are called boolean. So they just represent if something is true or false. Let's say A is false and our B is true. So what does this all mean to us? So basically this is being used in the following way. For example, we are telling if A is true, and we can put conditions in which cases this A variable is going to be true. So basically we understood a bit of concept of using Boolean values, but remember this is just explanation. So in our next lesson we are going to do everything in practical examples. So as you can see how it all works. So we talked about Boolean values. Now let's talk about arrays. So let me explain you. We have this image where we are putting a banana in the box. And that's cool, but we have a huge box and just one banana. We can put much more than a banana. That's why we are starting to put there also apples and oranges. So it comes out that we can have not just one value, but we can have an array of values inside a variable. Let me create a variable and call it ARR, and we can have here as many fruits as we want. It can be a fruit, it can be a vegetable, and so on. And we don't have limit of what number of elements we can put inside the variable. So that's it. So this is the basic concept of variables. We use arrays when we want to store more than one value inside one single variable, and will be much more familiar with this concept during in almost every work which you are going to have. Our sixth type of data are objects. So basically, to understand the concept of object, we need to understand OOP, so which is one of the most advanced way of using PHP. So this is object-oriented programming. So let me give you an example. So for example, we have a university and we need to have a professor, and each professor shall have a class, shall have a notebook, shall have a book of educational plan. And if we create one for each professor, it will be a huge job, and it's not how it works. Basically, we create a class and we create as many professors as we want, and all of them inherit these properties from the class. So we don't create for each one of them. So this is the basic concept of object-oriented programming, and we will talk about this later because this is an advanced topic and requires more explanations. And let's pick also, so let's see the most types of data you need to be familiar with. Just also you need to know about null. So everything that does not have a value is a null. So if we declare a variable and it does not have a value, it's null. So you don't create a null, but basically sometimes when you have problems with your variables or something, or your variable does not exist, so it is a null. So that's it. There's also a usage of resource. Again, we are not going to talk about this. This is way more advanced topics. So what I explained you is enough for the beginning to understand how the basic data structure concept works in PHP. Now, when we know about variables, about PHP syntax, and we already have knowledge about data types, let's move to one more step before we can already pass to doing some practical examples. For example, for the next lesson, I am planning to make a calculator.php to get what the result of the calculation. So we will do it, but before this, let's understand first variable scope. So what's the scope? For example, we have Wi-Fi in our house, and that Wi-Fi is available just in the area, in some small area, for example, just in our house, but not in whole building. But let's imagine there is also a Wi-Fi in the building, which is available in all the building. So in the same way, as we can see, we declare this variable, which is a, and we gave it Boolean value false. It's available in global scope. So global scope is all the file that we have. So if even we write in this file, not 35, but 150 lines of code, this variable will still be available there. And we have also local scope. So local scope is when the variable is accessible just in one part of the code, like it's about our Wi-Fi. It's just accessible in our room. So for this reason, let's create a function. So I'm gonna tell you what's function just in a couple of minutes. Just follow me. I am writing a test, and I'm gonna echo hi, I am a function $x. So we have x declared, yes, I am other variable. So let's see what happens when we try to call the function. So let's do it. See, hi, I am a function, but we don't see the value of x appearing here because our x variable is accessible just in global scope, but inside this function, which means inside these brackets, it's not accessible. So if I declare here x, because basically in this function x does not exist yet, it just exists outside of here. So let me do it. So I am a variable, let me in a local scope. So let's try to echo x here. So this is how we are calling a function. So remember, I always close the lines with semicolon because this is what helps PHP to differentiate where one line of code starts and the other ends. Basically, for human eyes, when we just start from a new line, it means that hey, it's another code, but for the computer, it's all the same. It's if we don't put there this semicolon, it's for it it's kind of computer reads out for like this, and it differentiates where one code starts and the other ends by the semicolons we are putting. So every time in PHP when you are finishing a line of code, don't forget to do it, otherwise you are gonna get a lot of errors in your code. So here we can see we echoed the variable called x, and we're gonna echo the x which is in global scope here. So it's just for you, to see the difference of between two scopes. So I'm a variable in a local scope, nice. So let's see why the other x is not appearing. So our x variable is here, and I echo other x here. Okay, sorry, I deleted the other x variable, the left x, just left x with uppercase. So okay, I'm other variable. That's nice. Let me put a break between the lines so as you can see the difference better. Let's not forget the semicolon. It's a golden rule in PHP. That's it. You can see it already. So we understood what global and local scopes are, and let's now try to understand how we can try to read this x variable inside our function. There is a nice way of how to do this. Let me delete this function declaration. So for this we are using super globals. So it's called global. Then we put there in square brackets. So we tell that it's x. So now let's try to echo x variable again inside our function. See, I am a variable. That's nice. So what we have done here, we declared x variable here as a global one, but to use it inside the scope we also declared and we got from global scope x inside our function. So after getting it to global, it can be used inside the function. So that's nice. So what we are doing is working perfectly, and I hope you understood fully the concept. So before we pass to more funny part of PHP, making practical nice things, we need to cover 3 more topics. and this we will do in the next lesson, because this time the lesson was a bit longer than I expected. So that's it. Have fun, enjoy what you are doing. Soon you are going to have great tools at your hand, and believe me, you will be happy to continue and persevere. I know it's hard sometimes to study, but if you are really ready to work, you are ready to commit, you will have nice future, and you will be really happy with your work. So thank you. See you in the next lesson.